Greetings. Joseph Kursky here with you to discuss 8 pieces of advice. 8 pieces of advice that in my judgment will help you in your career. And why listen to me? Well, I've visited over 200 universities, 300 schools, given hundreds of career and other workshops, short and long courses, face-to-face, and have taught digital seminars for over 30 years. Now, I realize that doesn't qualify me necessarily to speak as the end-all, be-all authority on this topic, but I've gained some experience working with deans, professors, students, and teachers at all levels, from primary to secondary to university, community college, technical college, informal settings, libraries, museums, etc., over many decades all over the world. So, I will share 8 tips with you, and I would love to hear your reactions to this. What do you think about this? Am I off base? I'd love to hear your reactions. I'm a geographer focused on the use of GIS, or Geographic Information Systems, in education. But most of this advice can actually be applied to any field. Epidemiology, criminal justice, sociology, natural resource management, business, etc. Career tip number 1. Network. We live in a world where society, technology, and education are all simultaneously changing. A world where the sphere of what is known is expanding at an ever-increasing rate. A world in which we cannot be an expert at every single thing, or even more than a few things. Therefore, networking is critical. Gather colleagues who can help you in your journey, including some in fields that are not your own. Some in fields that are not your own. And as you do, also remember to give back to them. Give back to the community as well. I'm in geospatial technology, and that community, for example, is incredibly nurturing, helpful, and affirming, ready to help those who need it. So build networks via electronic tools. No shortage of electronic tools out there. LinkedIn, etc. But also make sure you connect with people face-to-face as well. Yes, via Zoom, Skype, or other tools where you can actually see people. And when you talk with these colleagues, don't just ask them tech advice. Ask them about their experiences, what they are reading, what they are concerned about, what their biggest challenges are. Career tip number 2. Gain content knowledge. Gain content knowledge. It is a good thing to gain technical skills in your own field, but don't neglect the content knowledge. In my own area of GIS, yes, knowing GIS skills such as geocoding is important. But also, it is important to have one or more areas of content or domain expertise, whether it is population change, weather and climate, land use planning, hydrology, soil science, or something else. Career tip number 3. Understand foundations. What I mean by foundations is as follows. Gain familiarity and confidence in the foundations in whatever field you are in. With geotechnologies, these include measurement systems, geodesy, map projections, metadata, geodatabases, spatial analysis, spatial relationships, cartographic methods, and more. But don't just gain theoretical knowledge of geotechnologies. Know how to apply geotechnologies to fill in the blank. Human health, business site selection, habitat restoration, city planning, whatever the area is. So that is critical, I think, in your career journey. Career tip number 4. Think critically. Think critically. In our information-saturated world, it is more important than ever to think critically about a problem, about your methods of solving it, and about data, including map data, and maybe, dare I say, especially map data. Especially in a world where everyone can use mapping platforms to serve and share maps that they create themselves. How do you know if that map or data set is any good? Can you trust it? Who created it? When? How? At what scale? With what sources? And how often do they update it? Critical thinkers are what we need to solve the vexing, complex, and serious problems that are global in scope and that are increasingly affecting our everyday lives. Career tip number 5, read. I wrote a book recently called Interpreting Our World, 100 Discoveries That Revolutionized Geography and Our World. Writing this confirmed what I already suspected. Reading matters. All of the people that I wrote about, scientists, professors, explorers, inventors, and more, were voracious readers. Read, not only to engage with people. Remember the networking tip? Hey, what are you reading? Was it fascinating? What did you like about it? With fascinating subjects, but also to keep you thinking creatively and broadly. Yes, read things in your field to bolster your foundations and skills, but read outside your field as well. And read what interests you. Read a variety of genres: biography, poetry, history, novels, music history, and more. Dare I say along these lines, write. Write. You've got lots of platforms available to you, blogs, novels, etc. Write. And listen to music, dance, do art, play an instrument, whatever it is to keep those ideas flowing and your mind sharp and heart flowing. Career tip number 6, get outside. I have numerous videos and essays online about the value of outside experiences. These experiences help you think and focus, encourage you to use your senses, all 5 senses, develop your sense of place, and nurture earth stewardship. This is the only planet we've got, folks. Encourage people to get outside while they are young, as well, not just to adult constructed spaces, playgrounds and soccer fields. Those are good things too, but also vacant lots, riparian zones, woods, beaches, deserts, trails, fields. I love examining digital maps and remotely sensed imagery, right? I'm a geographer. That's one of the things geographers do. But there's nothing like getting into the field, so get outside. Career tip number 7, ask questions. Ask questions. This is the first step in the scientific inquiry process. Ask many questions, deep questions, thoughtful questions. We admittedly do a poor job of encouraging, by and large, students in primary and secondary schools to ask questions. And then we expect them magically to do so at the university level. What's wrong with this picture? But being curious about the world is something you have to develop, to work upon. It's not just going to happen overnight. You may have been curious as a toddler, but somehow along the way, you lost part of that. Well, get it back. By pursuing what you're interested in, by getting in the field, by networking with inquisitive people, by reading. Being curious will help you to be tenacious, help you form research pathways, help you solve our world's problems. Career tip number 8, think spatially. Most of our 21st century issues have a spatial component. Thus, to solve these issues requires you to be a spatial thinker. A spatial thinker. This is the most important tool of all, your brain. The phrase spatial thinking has been receiving increasing attention over the last decade, encouraged in part from the National Research Council's report, Learning to Think Spatially, GIS as a support system in the K-12 curriculum. However, in many ways, we in the GIS education community have been immersed in promoting and supporting spatial thinking in education for far longer than that, indeed for over 20 years. Beginning in the early 1990s, a handful of innovative K-12 teachers, along with a few interested faculty and universities, nonprofit organizations, and government agencies, working closely with K-12 educators, as well as the Esri Education Team, which began in 1992, to bring spatial thinking through the use of GIS tools to primary and secondary schools. At the same time, the Esri Higher Education program began. At the university level, spatial thinking has long been nurtured by research and practice from the fields of geography, science education, cognitive psychology, human-computer interaction, and others. Well, what exactly is spatial thinking? There have been many attempts to define it. My interest in it lies mostly on the geographic side, so perhaps my definition is better labeled as geospatial thinking. This overlaps some with geoliteracy, which has also been increasingly receiving attention. My working definition of spatial thinking is identifying, analyzing, and understanding the location, scale, patterns, and trends of the geographic and temporal relationships among data, phenomena, and issues. These are my 8 career advice pieces, folks. Network, develop content knowledge, understand the foundations, think critically, read, get outside, ask questions, and think spatially. I look forward to hearing your reactions. Thanks.